Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. We're going to unpack a really fascinating framework today, one that views the biblical narrative not just as a collection of random stories, but as a cohesive architectural blueprint of a literal cosmic temple. We are going to look at the entire scope of salvation history, all the way from Genesis to Jesus, but specifically through the lens of secret architecture. So, here is the structural framework we're going to be building together today. 1. The master blueprint. 2. Building a cosmic sanctuary. 3. The fourfold human vocation. 4. Threat and structural collapse. And finally, 5. Restoring the divine architecture. Let's get building. Section 1. The master blueprint. Reading Genesis differently. To lay the groundwork here, we first need to ask a pretty basic question. What kind of document is Genesis actually meant to be? When we read the first chapters of the Bible, it is so easy to get totally bogged down in modern scientific debates about the how, like exactly how did matter develop over time. But here's the thing, Genesis isn't a physics textbook explaining the mechanics. It's an architectural blueprint establishing a cosmic covenant. It really focuses on the what and the why. It's revealed truth about our absolute origin, and it establishes profound purpose and divine order. To really get it, we have to read it as the architectural blueprint it was always designed to be. Section 2. Building a cosmic sanctuary. Order from chaos. Now that we know we're looking at a blueprint, let's look at the actual construction phase of this cosmic home. Just look at the stunning structural symmetry of creation laid out here. The text actually uses identical language for both creation and temple building, completely solving the ultimate problem of formlessness and void. It's like a giant puzzle coming together. The first 3 days lay the structural foundation by creating the realms, right? Day 1 gives us day and night, day 2 creates sea and sky, and day 3 forms land and vegetation. Then, perfectly mirroring this, the next 3 days fill those formless realms with occupants or rulers. Day 4 gives us the sun, moon, and stars to rule the day and night. Day 5 brings birds and fish for the sea and sky, and day 6 introduces humanity and beast to occupy the land. It is just a masterful, deliberate design of order emerging straight out of chaos. And that brings us to a truly mind-bending realization. Creation and temple building literally share identical language, images, and metaphors in Scripture. The universe itself was designed as a literal sanctuary. Think about Solomon's temple for a second. It took 7 years to build, and it was dedicated in the 7th month during a 7-day feast. While the cosmos features its own architectural elements too. It has foundations, it has bases and measurements, it even has bars and doors and a cornerstone. God isn't just making a little terrarium here. He is building a massive cosmic temple where he intends to dwell with his creation. So the absolutely crucial point regarding the 7th day is this. In Hebrew, the word is Shabbat, which literally translates to seven oneself. You got to think of it less like God crashing on the couch because he's exhausted and more like God swearing a covenant oath. For instance, later on when Abraham offers 7 lambs in Genesis 21 to swear an oath, he is literally sevening himself. The Sabbath finishes God's design by inviting humanity into a permanent covenant relationship. The roof of this cosmic temple is time itself, dedicated entirely to a relationship with the Creator. Section 3. The fourfold human vocation. The pillars. So with the sanctuary built and the covenant established, let's take a look at the occupants and what their structural roles are. We usually read Genesis 1 and 2 as the exact same story, don't we? But there are actually 2 distinct lenses on humanity's job description going on here. In Genesis 1, we encounter God the Creator making a cosmic home, and his command to humanity is to subdue creation and multiply. This is a role of kingly dominion. But zoom in on Genesis 2 and we see God the Father. He fashions man from the dust, breathes life into him, and creates a garden paradise. Here, the command is to till and to keep, which, in the original language, actually means to guard. This is a role of priestly guardianship. So, humanity is called to be both kings of the earth and priests of the sanctuary. These distinct roles combine to form what we call the 4-pillar diagram of Adam's firstborn commission. See, in ancient times, firstborn sons inherited the priesthood, and Adam was uniquely equipped with 4 distinct vocations to uphold this cosmic temple. First, as a son, his vocation was to trust, being created in God's image and likeness. Second, as a king, his vocation was to guard, since he was given dominion to subdue the earth. Third, as a priest, his vocation was to sacrifice, placed in the sanctuary to minister. And fourth, as a husband, his vocation was to protect, acting as the mediator of the very first marriage covenant. These 4 pillars are what kept the whole sanctuary standing strong.
Section 4. Threat and structural collapse. The ruins of Eden. But as we know, every sturdy structure faces tests, and our explainer now reaches its dramatic turning point. The sanctuary is about to be breached.
We usually picture this scene with a cute little garden snake wrapped around an apple tree, right? But that completely obscures the lethal reality of this test. The Hebrew word used here is nahash. If you trace this exact word through scripture, like in Numbers 21, Isaiah 27, or Revelation 12, it translates to fiery serpents, Leviathan, the twisting serpent, or the great red dragon. Adam wasn't facing a harmless little reptile. He was facing a deadly, supernatural predator. The threat to the sanctuary was immense, and the pressure on Adam's 4 pillars was absolutely, totally overwhelming. And here is the tragic result. This is the conceptual destruction, a total structural collapse where Adam completely fails all 4 of those vocations. Covenant love requires total self-giving, but pride and disobedience took over. Think about it. As a son, he doubted the father's goodness. As a king, he allowed the Nahash right into the heart of the sanctuary. As a priest, he refused to lay down his life to defend his bride. And as a husband, he just stood by silently while Eve was attacked. The pillars utterly shattered. The immediate ruins of Eden cascade into 3 distinct, really heartbreaking steps. First is the confrontation. They hear the sound, or call, of the Lord. And this is a voice described elsewhere in Scripture as powerful enough to break cedars and strip forests bare. Next comes the loss of divine life. Their mortal sin leads to immediate spiritual death, separating them from the source of life, which will eventually be followed by physical death. Finally, the covenant curses. And this is exactly why this matters to our own everyday experience right now. Nature itself is fractured. Have you ever felt like your work is just an endless, exhausting grind? Well, that's the thorns and thistles of the fall. Human relationships are marred by blame and pain. An eternal enmity is declared between humanity and the serpent.
Section 5. Restoring the divine architecture. The renovation. Though the original pillars collapsed and humanity was left sitting in the ruins, the master builder doesn't just abandon his project. He immediately announces a monumental restoration. Right in the middle of these curses, God makes a promise. He says, "I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." This passage is known as the proto-evangelium, which is really just a fancy theological word for the first gospel. And that unique phrase, seed of the woman, it's incredibly profound. It implies a miraculous virgin birth, because back then, genealogies were always traced through the father. It's the very first promise that this specific, miraculous seed would ultimately triumph over the serpent and rebuild everything that was lost.
Notice the profound symmetry here. Every single failure of the first Adam is perfectly mirrored and reversed by the restorative actions of the new Adam, Christ. Just look at the parallels. The first Adam was in a garden in Eden. The new Adam begins his passion in a garden in Gethsemane. The first Adam was naked and hiding in fear. The new Adam was stripped naked, exposed, and sweating blood. The first Adam brought thorns and thistles to the earth. The new Adam wears that very curse as a crown of thorns. The first Adam went to the tree of knowledge to take life. The new Adam goes to the tree of the cross to give life. Where the first Adam submitted to the serpent and brought death, the new Adam crushes the power of fear and death entirely. It's a perfect architectural renovation. But you know, the knot of disobedience isn't totally untied yet. We don't just have a new Adam, we have a new Eve. The first Eve's action was one of grasping and disobedience, yielding to the serpent and bringing fracture to the entire human family. But look at the new Eve, Mary. Her action is perfect self-offering and receptive obedience. Let it be done to me according to your word. By doing so, she partners with the new Adam to completely restore what was lost. Death came through the first Adam and Eve. Life comes through the new Adam and new Eve.
The entire Bible is essentially the story of God raising his family from infancy to adulthood. Covenant love, as we've seen, requires total, radical self-giving. Where the first priest-king failed to sacrifice himself to protect his bride from the dragon, the eternal high priest mounts the wood of the cross, the new tree of life. He offers himself entirely to restore the broken covenant and save his bride, the church. To wrap up our explainer today, I really want you to ask yourself, if the entire biblical narrative is this perfectly symmetrical, if God is this meticulous of a master builder with the cosmos, what does this master blueprint demand of the architectural foundations of our own lives today? What pillars are you building on?